Good morning, everyone. I'm Local 6's Brianna Clark. I wanted to take you out of the studio, bring you outside, and show you what it looks like right now. Everyone's taking it much slower than usual, but again, that visibility is starting to go down. The family tells me this is where they were when the storm hit. It's your trash like this that's causing the problem. The next big rainfall will force stuff like this into here, eventually pouring out into our waterways. McGee was just getting to the top of his deer stand, then in the blink of an eye, he woke up on the ground 18 feet below his deer stand. About 6 times a day, Brown comes out here to fill up that entire tank with water. Then he dumps it out in a spot where the cows can get to it. And on the ground, you can see where this driver slid. The car turned around and then it slid into that ditch. In the school parking lot, after the shooting, students were shuttled over to North Marshall Middle School where they met up with their parents. One dad tells me his daughter didn't want to go to school today. She had a weird feeling in the pit of her stomach. Now he says he wished she stayed home. This was the first time Bailey Holtz and Preston Cope's parents were able to stand up in front of Gabriel Parker, the person who killed their children, and tell him how they really feel. It was raw, emotional, and these families did not hold back. Shortly after sentencing, I caught up with the Copes, and they told me why they chose to keep their backs turned away from Gabriel Parker.
Well, listen.
You hear that?
That's it, nothing. Just electrical boxes humming.
The sound of students on spring break. Except next week, it'll still be like this.
And this is my classroom.
Empty because of the COVID-19 pandemic.
I meet them here with the fist bump.
That's how Chad Darnell greets his students when they are here.
So we're missing out on that. I'm missing out on that.
The name on the outside of the building says Robert G. Fitch.
Ready to get this over with? Sure. Let's do it.
But everyone inside knows him as Dr. Robbie.
I know you don't like being here.
Bright lights, instruments clanking, and the dreaded shrill of the drill. But the noise at night takes on a different tone.
It's gonna be a rock machine.
First, he started playing them.
And then this one is an acoustic.
Now he's making them.
One thing you gotta do.
Custom, vintage-style guitars.
This is a new one I'm working on.
And this is the one that started it all.
This is number 1, the first one.
That's Andy Gibson, professional musician and self-proclaimed vintage guitar nerd. He started playing on this a few years ago, following a visit with his dentist, Dr. Robbie.
He brings that guitar right there.
This is early day stuff. Did you get this one? Where I got the rabbit ears?
Thousands of photos scattered throughout their home in Livingston County, Kentucky.
Well, we're just playing around, that's what that is.
Does it feel good talking about Donnie, sharing these stories?
With you it does.
Yeah.
I get comfort from watching the one that you did. I really do. As a matter of fact, I have the disc in the safe, and I have the program in the computer.
He was an American soldier, and she wasn't interested.
The way he was talking, he was talking Americans. My goodness.
A few months later, they crossed paths again. Donnie was carrying a bag of groceries, and as fate would have it, the bag broke. Bill was her knight in shining armor.
I was there and picked it up almost by the time it hit the ground.
That was then.
That's all of that one.
Last time we flipped through these albums, Donnie was sitting right here.
I always forget. I'm thinking me and Donnie and you.
Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking. I'm sorry.
A new reality. Still sinking in. In November, Donnie and Bill both tested positive for COVID-19.
I took Donnie the next morning down to the hospital. They took her in, and that was the last time I could be with her. I couldn't hold her hand. I couldn't even go in. It's a terrible thing. Okay.
Hours turned into days, days into weeks. Donnie's health quickly declining.
And she had all those tubes in her mouth, and I couldn't stand it. No. I wanted to do everything we could to save her. I didn't care what it took. I just wanted to save her. But when it got to where I couldn't do it and there's nothing left, I didn't want her to suffer anymore. So they took her off the ventilator, and she lasted maybe 30 minutes.
Did you get to see her then?
I saw her through the glass window. I couldn't hold her, couldn't do nothing. And that was the hard part. I couldn't, no. Couldn't do it. Somewhere every day or every night, there's a tear. It just happens. It might just all at once. A thought comes in, and it's hard. There's Donnie sitting in the car.
When he sees her picture, he can't help but smile.
Yeah, because Donnie had a good life. One of the big meals she fixed.
It looks like you're celebrating something. What are you guys celebrating?
Well, I don't know. That was always a big event. Birthday, Mother's Day, Christmas, everything. It's a pretty good picture.
What's today? Today's a pretty big day, right?
Yeah, it is. It's my birthday. Yeah, 87 years old.
For the past 63 years, she's been here for your birthday, right?
Right.
This is the first year.
Without her. Yeah. Sure is. I miss her. I always will.
He's too good. He's too good to.
When I sit back and watch it, it's just like I'm with her.
Are you still in love today?
You have to be to stay together 63 years.
To do for
Yes. And I watch it all the way through.
It's still their love story, but now with a different ending.
There's no way to explain it. It's just hard. I don't think it will ever get any better. I really don't.
We got St. Jude's medicine. Too much medicine. Not enough refrigerator. Before all this cancer, she was healthy, happy.
Cheyenne Parker, better known as Lil Miss. At 6 years old, she's definitely Daddy's girl.
She's my little shadow. Everywhere I go, she wants to go.
Right before her 5th birthday, doctors at St. Jude diagnosed Cheyenne with stage 2 neuroblastoma. She beat it. Then a few months later, it came back. This time, stage 4, high risk.
Realistically, you can't really hide it from her. Because it's her life and she needs to know.
Alan Parker and his daughter continued to fight, eventually beating cancer for a 2nd time.
During all this, I ended up losing my job.
A single father now without a steady income. But his daughter was okay, and that's all that mattered. Then, just a few weeks ago, the world came crashing down. The cancer is back, and there isn't a cure.
They are saying between 2 weeks and 2 months. So we could actually wake up tomorrow and think the impossible.
Alan tells me they were given the option to try experimental chemo, but doctors told him it could be deadly.
Asked if she wanted to come home and be a kid or go through chemo again. And she chose to come home.
Cheyenne is now in hospice at her home in Callaway County. Her mother left several years ago. Alan is doing all of this on his own.
I'm trying to remain strong. I'm her rock, so got no choice. She's my world.
When you think you've seen it all, then something else comes along.
A new threat, a vague post, a comment circulating social media.
You notice people being more protective.
That's Callaway County Deputy Sheriff Brandon Gallimore.
You see it. You see the less amount of cars in the parking lot. less number of kids that are riding buses.
This is Gallimore's 11th year as a school resource officer. He tells me a lot has changed in a decade, including the way students make threats.
Now we're seeing a lot of people posing with guns or weapons, making vague threats like just you wait.
It's enough to get your child charged with a felony.
People may think, oh, you're overreacting, it's a child doing childish things. But times have changed, and the way we deal with these things have changed.
What if a parent says, my child was just joking?
It happens, and that's unfortunately something they're going to have to try to explain to a judge.
It's like
Ballard County Attorney Vicki Hayden hears it all the time.
they don't think they did anything wrong. I didn't really mean it. Everybody knows me. I wouldn't do anything like that. I would like to see some remorse. I would like to see a parent stand up and say, it was wrong what my child did, and we're going to work on this at home.
Take a look. This is now part of Kentucky's second-degree terroristic threatening law. If your child says, does, or posts something causing an evacuation, cancellation, or fear, they will be charged with a felony.
Parents can't sit in their home and just say it won't happen here. My child wouldn't do that. Those attitudes aren't going to work anymore.
Especially in West Kentucky. 2 deadly school shootings in 20 years. First Heath High, then Marshall County.
Wake up. Wake up. Your child's not perfect, and you are not a perfect parent. None of us are, but these are the kinds of things that you cannot afford to take lightly. I mean, if you were to ask Michael Carneal's parents or Gabriel Parker's parents that this was going to happen, I'd be really curious to hear what they would have to say.
In the 3 months following the Marshall County High School shooting, Kentucky schools investigated 294 terroristic threats. Hayden's not sure why the numbers seem to be going up across the state, but she does know kids are not taking it seriously. What's already happened twice could happen a third time.
Or a fourth or a fifth. I'm not willing to take that chance. I know our sheriff's department here is not willing. Our administrators, our teachers are not willing.
It's a little bit of a different age. Clearly, the fact that instances of school violence have happened, and they've happened close to us, that's different.
Ballard County Schools Superintendent Casey Allen says before the era of school shootings, kids were calling in bomb threats to get out of testing, leaving notes in the bathroom as a prank. Now, it's no joke.
I have heard this culture, this age of students referred to as the school shooting culture. That's sad, but that's previous cultures didn't have to deal with that, concern when you were sitting in school.
Earlier this year, Ballard County was on high alert following several rumored threats.
Law enforcement and the school took every one of them seriously and spent a lot of time investigating.
It's all hands on deck, and in some smaller counties, that's not very many hands.
Any threat to the school or rumor of a threat automatically takes priority.
Carlisle County Sheriff Will Gilbert says they have 2 full-time law enforcement on staff, and he's one of them. When they need reinforcements, they call in the jailer and volunteers.
The whole community suffers a drain from it.
Before becoming sheriff, Gilbert spent 2 decades with the Paducah Police Department. You'll find his name on a number of reports investigating students making terroristic threats at local schools.
And it's an unfortunate reality that we've become desensitized.
I can see the emotion and the passion in your eyes. Where does that passion and emotion come from?
Give me a second, Brianna.
No problem.
It's not easy to talk about, not even for a man who's practically seen it all.
Can't guarantee you that I won't. You had to call me out on it. Okay, for me, I have 2 school-age children as well. And with my past connections with Heath and Marshall County, those things tend to hit home. So, and you worry about your own children as well.
Fear does go up because unfortunately the community has evidence that this can happen to them.
Dr. Sarah Shelton is a licensed clinical and forensic psychologist with ties to Western Kentucky.
Youth are very reactive. So when they feel a strong emotion like anger, they are more likely than an adult to act on that behaviorally by either making a threat or engaging in violence.
I found a gun. Columbine Part 2. A 13-year-old said she was joking when she posted that on social media. Police charged her with a felony. Another child said he was just playing around when he threatened to shoot up his elementary school. And these fingerprints belong to a preteen, now in the hands of the FBI, after the student threatened to bring a knife and a gun to school. These are just some of the 360 terroristic threats made at local schools since August of 2017. Of those, 85 resulted in charges. If students made those threats today, Gallimore says you can bet each one of them would go in front of a judge.
Whether it's legit or not, if you make that threat, unfortunately, you're going to get charged, whether it's liable or not, because that's just something you just don't do.
To calculate the number of threats in this special report, I filed open records requests with these 16 public schools in West Kentucky, along with local law enforcement. And every district provided me with information except Murray Independent Schools. They had their attorney send me a letter denying the request. But I was able to fill in the blanks with help from the Murray Police Department. And keep in mind, if you report something that you truly believe is a threat, you will not face charges.